The opportunity to learn more about what Karen was hiding came on a Thursday night, and I couldn't ignore it. By this point, I had already endured weeks of harassment, letters slipped under my door, anonymous HOA fines piling up, and constant glares from across the street. On the surface, it looked like a battle over my dog. Karen claimed that Cooper, my golden retriever, was aggressive, unruly, and unsafe for the neighborhood. But the truth was, Cooper had never harmed anyone. He was friendly, gentle, and loved by everyone who actually took the time to know him. The more I thought about it, the less her behavior made sense. Karen wasn't just annoyed by the dog. She was trying to make him the focus of something bigger. Every time I questioned her motives, every time I considered confronting her, something in my gut told me this wasn't about Cooper at all. He was the smokescreen. The real story was behind her fence. And that Thursday night, I decided to get closer. The neighborhood was quiet. The kind of silence that makes every sound feel sharper. Earlier, a storm had rolled through, leaving the streets wet and glistening under the dim glow of the streetlights. Most houses were dark, their families already asleep. The perfect cover for someone like me. I had been paying attention to Karen's routine for days. Her front lights always went off around 10 p.m. sharp. By then, the curtains in her living room were drawn, and her car remained in the same spot in the driveway. But her backyard? That was different. Almost every night, a strange glow pulsed from behind her privacy fence. It wasn't steady like a television or a lamp. It was brighter, colder, and it came in waves, like something mechanical. I had watched from a distance for too long, and that night I couldn't stand not knowing any longer. I left my own house just before 11. My porch light stayed off. Cooper whined softly as I shut the door, but I couldn't risk bringing him along. A dog's bark could ruin everything. With each step I took down the slick pavement, I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. The air was cool and damp, carrying the faint metallic scent of rain. Every sound, the drip of water from the gutters, the crunch of gravel under my shoes, felt magnified in the stillness. When I reached Karen Street, I slowed my pace. The glow was there, brighter than ever, bleeding faintly through the gaps in the bottom of her fence. My chest tightened. This wasn't just paranoia. Something was happening in that yard. I slipped into the narrow strip of grass between her property and the neighbors. The space was cluttered with trash bins and overgrown weeds, but it gave me just enough cover to move without being seen from the street. Up close, her fence towered over me, taller than anything else on the block. Every board was sealed tightly, with no cracks wide enough to peek through. Whoever built it had designed it specifically to block out prying eyes. But the light betrayed her. It spilled across the damp grass in streaks of electric blue. The glow wasn't natural. It flickered, pulsed, and carried with it a faint vibration I could feel in my chest. I crouched low, pressing my hand against the dirt, and that's when I heard it. A low hum. It wasn't loud, but it was steady, like machinery running underground. The earth itself seemed to buzz faintly, the sound rising and falling in rhythm with the light. This wasn't a generator. It wasn't a television. Whatever was behind that fence, it was something else entirely. I stayed there, crouched against the wood, my heart racing as I tried to make sense of it. But then, something happened that nearly froze me in place. The creak of a door, Karen's back door. I pressed myself flat against the fence, barely daring to breathe. Through the gaps, I caught a flicker of movement, a shadow cutting across the yard. Her outline was unmistakable. She moved slowly, as if surveying her property, pausing at intervals like she was listening. The light dimmed when she stepped into the yard. Not off, not gone, just subdued, like someone lowering a dimmer switch. My pulse hammered in my ears as I realized she was checking whatever was producing that glow. She lingered for what felt like forever. I didn't move a muscle, terrified that the smallest sound would give me away. My legs burned from crouching, but I stayed frozen, locked in the shadows. Finally, she turned back. Her shadow retreated toward the house, and the door closed with a dull thud. I let out a shaky breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I knew I couldn't risk staying any longer. Slowly, carefully, I retraced my steps down the side path, back toward the safety of the main road. My shoes squelched faintly in the wet grass, and every step felt like a warning. By the time I reached my own house, the glow had faded. Karen's yard was dark again, silent, as though nothing had ever happened. But I knew better. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, letting the adrenaline drain from my body. Cooper padded over, resting his head against my leg. I ran a shaky hand through his fur, grounding myself in the simple comfort of his presence. I had seen enough to know this wasn't just about a nosy neighbor with too much time on her hands. The complaints, the fines, the accusations about Cooper, they weren't random. They were deliberate distractions designed to keep eyes away from her property. Something was buried in Karen's yard, something humming, glowing, and guarded fiercely behind that fence. And I wasn't just curious anymore. For the first time, I was afraid. The fear lingered long after I tried to sleep. Every creak of the house, every passing car outside made me jolt awake, wondering if Karen knew I had been there. But beneath that fear, something else grew stronger. Resolve. Because now, I had proof, and I wasn't going to stop until I uncovered the truth. But the closer I got, the more dangerous it would become. Because if Karen was willing to turn the entire HOA against me over a dog, what would she do if she knew I was onto her secret?